Hey, we're back in the factory. We're going to fix this machine up. There's an earlier video where I work on a smaller version of one of these, and I go through a few different modifications that we make on that. This is a similar machine, just a bigger version. I am in the factory and I'm recording on my phone, so it'll be a little bit shaky and a little bit noisy, but we'll push through. So this one needs a few adjustments. So what I'll do is we'll lift this this cutting plate up, have a look inside, and I'll explain what we're going to do and what's actually wrong with the machine. We've got to lift it up in here because this thing's actually cutting a little bit skewed. So what happens is this big chunk of the machine here pulls up with this arm and this kind of gear here from this flywheel, and it pushes plastic up against the die that's in there. This is spinning, just spinning down. We're not actually turned on, we're all isolated. But put a piece of plastic in here and it pushes up and cuts against the die cutter there, opens up again, you pull it out and you've got a cut out piece of plastic which can be folded into a box or cut out a sign or some shape out of plastic. You can see they've got a bit of a shim here. This is just a bit of thin plastic which goes behind the plate, and that's to space it out, just to trim it out to be the exact correct depth so you can cut the plastic without ramming the cutting blades into the metal. But what's happening is this is slightly skewed by maybe a fraction of a millimeter, and it's cutting differently, a different depth on one end to the other side, to this end. So what we have to do is down here, you can see this piece here and this piece here, this little arm here, when it comes up, it will then impart force pushing forward here and here. That then determines how hard it's going to push either side, and by lifting this block here and this block here, we can alter that force. So what we do is we put a little shim just underneath in here, and we can alter the thickness of that shim to alter the force pushing on each side. So basically when this is open, it comes up, this here engages on here, which then makes it push perpendicular to the cutting face. So it comes up on an angle and then pushes back directly, comes back and then opens up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some cribbing here, some wood blocks. We've got all these wood blocks here, and we're going to lay them down one way, then the other, then the other, then the other, this back and forth, so it's all nice and solid. We're going to use the bottle jack, which is rated to much more than what this thing here weighs. I've calculated this to weigh a little bit under half a ton. It's just cast iron, so I've kind of worked out the volume multiplied by the weight of cast iron, and then yeah, about half a ton. This thing's rated to I can't remember, a couple ton. So that's going to go on there. We're going to lift this up just a little bit after we take this plate off, because that's going to stop, this plate here stops this from lifting up. And then once we've lifted that up just enough, we can pull the shim that's in there out and put a new one in, a thinner shim. So that's going to alter the cutting angle, and then hopefully make that more flat, so we get a much more consistent cut across the face. All right, we've got the cribbing set up, all super solid, just stacked up there. So we've got the jack pushing up against the big piece here, and we've lifted it up only by about 5 or 10 millimeters. So if I pull the pin out, that's a locating pin, there's two of them there, so that always goes down the same position, and you can see that's loose. Now this is being held in position, so even if that jack collapses, it's only going to go down by about 10 mil, because this side is still in, and the arm here and the one on the other side is there, so that can't fall towards me, and because that one is there, it can't twist and move left and right, so that can only go down. The other thing is, I'm not going to put my fingers anywhere near here. Instead, I'm going to use these. So if that does fall, it's going to crush my metal tool and not my meat tools. So we've got to pull the old shim out. There it is there. So that's the old one. And we put the new one in. This one's a thinner shim. It sounds thinner. It's about half the thickness. So that can go in. Like so. Let's make sure it's positioned correctly. And then we'll put one of these back in so we can push that back into position like that. Now what we've got to do is put the other pin in so it's centralized. Then I can just loosely put the bolts in, because when that drops down it ain't moving. So I'll just loosely put the bolts in like that, and that's going to be perfectly positioned once the 4 bolts are just kind of seated in there. And we can drop this down and then tighten it all up and give it a test and see if it's straightened up. Alright, so it's all back together. New piece of plastic in there, ready to test, and we'll see how well it cuts on this side compared to that side. Alright. So cutting her right there. And the other side. We're getting close. I don't know if you can see, but you can just see the pattern there. So a little bit more adjustment and we're getting close. So what we're doing now is we're putting an extra piece of plastic shim underneath here, because we want this to go flat. It was sitting like this, but by removing that shim we've made it not like that, but like that. So now it's not cutting as firmly as it needs to be, but it's more straight. So we've got to make it push a bit harder, and this time it will push harder but more equally left and right. So we were like that, we want it like that, we are like that, so now we're just going to make it more like that, if that makes sense. So that's cutting pretty good now on that side, and on this side, look at that. We are really close now. Okay, one more adjustment. We've removed both shims from here and we put the thin one over to here now. So we're getting a little bit more force on one side than the other than what we had before, and we'll give it a go and see how even it is now. Right, after a few more adjustments, that's looking pretty good. And this side, that's looking pretty good, I guess. For now, I think that's a thumbs up. We'll let the machine run for a while and see how it settles in, and give it maybe another adjustment or two later on. But for now, that's actually looking pretty good. Alright, so I hope you found that interesting. If you got one of these machines, I doubt you do, but if you do, I hope you found that informative, and we'll see you in the next one.